Hey everyone, welcome back to Girl Talk. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, if you could give me a like, share, thumbs up, comment, and all that other good stuff, I would appreciate it. So, we're actually going to get right into day 13 of the Lindsay Clancy trial. And this is going to be um, a recap once again per Reddit. I do want to say that as for Friday, um, there is no session and they will resume Monday at 9 a.m. So just wanted to let everyone know that. So we're going to get right into this. The first witness that was called today was Trooper Kyle Cavell, and he is digital forensics. He's a Massachusetts State Police former cyber crime unit, certified in Celebrite, Magnet, Forensic Computer, and Mac examination. Surface Pro examination of Pat Clancy's device. Bit-for-bit forensic image reviewed. Cavell tagged artifacts for evidence. August 23rd, 2022. Browsing sequence. And this is the timeline all from Surface Pro. At 9:40 a.m., visit to lindsay.969 on her Facebook page. 9:42 to 9:44 a.m. Spotify search for Tom Hall. The song was How I Got to Memphis. 9:44 a.m. Google search for Tom Hall, and that was the Wikipedia page. Death section anchor clicked. Hyperlink referencing self-inflicted gunshot wound. Hyperlink leads to suicide methods. The shooting section at 9:45 a.m. At 9:48 a.m., hyperlink to Grafton Bridge page. The key forensic points. Cavell cannot determine who used the computer. Chrome profile logged in under Patrick Clancy's email. No searches for quote-unquote ways to kill found in his October 2025 report. Cavell confirms browsing path began with Tom Hall, not a suicide search. The defense cross themes. Emphasizes Patrick's possible use of device. Notes Lindsay was at pediatric appointment around 10 to 10:15 a.m. Cavell reiterates he cannot determine user identity, only digital artifacts. The next witness was Trooper Timothy Japani, and he did the cell phone forensics. Qualifications and extraction type. He's state police trained in Celebrite, Gray Key, and Axiom familiarity. Performed advanced logical extraction of Lindsay's iPhone, and that was January 30th, 2023. Another Trooper Rabbit, performed full file system extraction, and that was January 27th of 2023. The timeline report from November to December 2022 and January 23. Celebrate parsed. Text, calls, web history, searches, photos, notes, calendar. The next section is January 24th, 2023, and that's the restaurant, CVS, and pediatric visit. This is from Apple Maps and medication searches. 4:13 p.m., Apple Maps search for 3B restaurant. 4:47 p.m., searches for Pedialyx CVS website. 4:48 p.m. is an outgoing call to CVS in Kingston. The dinner planning text thread from Lindsay to Patrick. At 4:53 p.m., Lindsay messages, "Any chance you wanted to take out from 3B? It's been a long day." Patrick says, "Yeah." Lindsay says, "Okie dokie." Lindsay says, "Check the menu when you can." Multiple Safari searches for 3B menu and Pedialyte at 5:06 p.m., and multiple tabs on the computer were used. The phone calls to 3B restaurant. 5:09 p.m. was an 11-second call, and 5:10 p.m. a 47 second call. Oh my goodness. Confirmed the 3B number. Additional searches. Multiple Pedialyte searches at 5:13 p.m. At 5:15 p.m., Lindsay texts, quote unquote, Pedialyte liquid stool softener. And then the calendar extract is from August 22 to January of 23. The key entries from August 23rd of 2022 at 10 a.m., quote unquote, Callan Kingston vaccine. At 9:45 a.m., quote unquote, Kingston Dawson ear check. These match pediatric records. And then the mommy text thread on January 2023. On January 3rd, the McLean Hospital. Lindsay says, quote unquote, "I'm all right, anxious about meeting with the psychiatry team." Lindsay, quote unquote, "I'm just worried they won't send me home soon." January 8th, her mom said, "Sleep good last night?" Lindsay said, "I actually did." On January 10th, her mom said, "Good morning, how are you doing today?" Lindsay said, "Good, at the gym with the kids." Mom says, "Still sleeping good?" And Lindsay said, "So far, a little bit." On January 12th, her mom said, "Still feeling a little better?" And Lindsay said, "A little bit." January 14th, Lindsay says, "Waiting for the day I wake up and feel me." January 16th, Lindsay said, "It was fun. Cora and Dawson enjoyed." January 19th to the 22nd, Mom says, "I'll bring it Saturday. Treasures in the attic." Mom, on January 22nd, said, "Enjoyed seeing everyone this weekend. Nice to see you doing better." And then the next one is searches for medical/psychiatric terms, all confirmed from Lindsay's phone via Celebrate. Celebrate is the program they use to extract text messages, phone logs, and all that other good stuff. So just in case you were wondering what Celebrate is. So the psychiatric system searches. Schizophrenia was January 19th of 2023. Psychosis symptoms was January 19th and 20th, 2023. Hallucinations, January 19th, 2023. Intrusive thoughts, January 20th, 2023. Postpartum depression, January 11th to the 19th, 2023. Insomnia, December 31st, 2022. The medication searches. Seroquel, January 20th, 2023. Lamictal, January 16th, 2023. Wellbutrin, January 16th, 2023. Ativan, December 31st, 2022. Klonopin, January 18th, 2023. Trazodone, December 31st, 2022. Benzo withdrawal, January 20th, 2023. The next one is suicide related searches, and it's quote unquote suicide December 29th, 2022. And it says distinct from August 23rd, 2022 Surface Pro browsing. So this was a different search than the search for suicide back in August. The next one is physical health searches. DKA without high blood sugar, child symptoms such as UTI, bloated belly, lethargic, children's Motrin, Tylenol, infant formula, Miralax or Pedialyte, thermometers, milestones, baby food, Cape Cod Resort, kids movies, unicorn coloring pages. These searches span December 31st, 2022 through January 24th, 2023. The next one is the text thread, Lindsay and Patrick on January 24th, 2023. This was the morning pediatric visit. Lindsay sends cute photo of kids with snowman, and Patrick says, cutie. And then Patrick says, how's it going? Lindsay says, good, her urine looked good, nothing wrong with her kidneys. Patrick said, you're a good mama. Lindsay reacts with a heart smiley face. Next up is transition to dinner planning. Again, Lindsay says, any chance you want to do takeout from 3B? Long day. Patrick says, yeah. Lindsay says, okie dokie. And then the photo modification clarification. Modified photo means edited in some way. Could be converting a live photo to a still image. No evidence of malicious alteration. Later in the day, the substitution of correct pediatric medical records was approved. So just some things that the public are saying about today's testimony and just the trial so far. If a person has a solid plan, they are not going to ask for help. They are going to attempt. So quote unquote plan needs a better definition. Though statements like, I don't want to be here sounds close, if not imminent. Hopeless is someone who can't see a way out. Let me say that one again. Hopeless is someone who can't see a way through, just out. How much more did Lindsay have to do to get help? When Gelada was testifying, I thought there was minutes recognition that she missed the severity when she mentioned stop breastfeeding being a hormonal shift. Although her testimony factors were being mentioned, since they weren't listed at a single visit, they weren't seen for what they were. And here's another one. This one's kind of interesting, and then I'm going to read the what someone wrote to this. It says, okay, so I'm not someone who thinks there is a world in which Lindsay is found not guilty in some form or fashion. But the Commonwealth is playing with fire now, adding unnecessary doubt. Between the weird DNA results that are weird mostly because it was confusing, and the search she didn't search, and trying to debunk their own witness about having to keep pressure and how long to strangle, I don't understand what they are thinking. And here was when somebody answered that. The prosecution came up with a theory. It was a wrong theory. They are now back on their heels. Essentially, they took this wide, expansive view over a long period of time and either cherry-picked or failed to fully investigate some things. If they plan to utilize their original theory during closings, they will lose. If they cleanly and concisely narrow their theory to accurate information and top-notch demonstratives, especially around drugs, providers, doses, starts, and stops, they will get some more guilty votes on board. It still won't be enough for an overall unanimous guilty verdict. I predict a hung jury or NGRI if there is any unanimous verdict. And here again, it says, once again, the Commonwealth's witnesses only served the defense. Hearing the forensic guy read Lindsay's notes only showed to me, once again, that she was a loving mother struggling with guilt, anxiety, desperately wanting to be the best mom she could for her children, but finding herself more and more unable. Same with Google searches. And then to hear about the prosecution's motion regarding the visiting priest at the end, and hearing defense Reddington's response stating that this is the very priest that baptized all of Lindsay's children. The priest that has been seeing her for the past 3 years and who is now trying to be by her side through this trial. Through the debate that occurred yesterday, as Reddington put it, brought tears to my eyes once again. Again, the Commonwealth comes across as nothing but cold-hearted and tone-deaf. And somebody answered to that, and it says, the Commonwealth are acting obtuse and have no clear path of what they are doing. I have to keep reminding myself they don't work for the defense. On the other hand, they are cruel and deplorable. I can guarantee either one of them never had kids. Disgusting. And then one more. I can't believe how bad the prosecution is fumbling this. You have a mother who admits to killing her 3 children. There have been many high-profile cases like this. A bunch of them center their defense around altered mental conditions due to childhood trauma and abuse, or domestic violence, or undiagnosed mental disorder, or emotional turmoil. And almost all of them result in some conviction of the mother killer on some form of homicide, whether murder or manslaughter. How have you let this turn into some sort of nationwide referendum on the standard of mental health care? Part of it is by lying about what the evidence shows or what your witnesses are going to say. Yesterday I heard the judge say, quote unquote, "You're going to impeach your own witness." And today, the prosecution tried to turn some seemingly innate Wikipedia doom-clicking to one of those incriminating, how long does it take for a dog to die in a parked car type of Google searches. When you tell the jury you have the receipts and you don't have the receipts, they stop believing you entirely. And I promise this is the last one. Reddington, and that is Lindsay's lawyer. Following their witness's testimony, with the rest of the story is showing how deceptive the prosecution is behaving. It's a mistake one time. However, it has happened multiple times now. If I were a juror, I would not trust the prosecution. Neither of those women can have children. The bruises on Dawson's legs are going to be said to be due to abuse. Watch and see. The problem is children are a bruised mess from the time they start trying to walk. At one point, I was terrified our pediatrician was going to suspect abuse from all the bruising on my son. He told me that my son was simply a healthy, very active child. The weed problem Lindsay supposedly had was actually one gummy. Drug seeking was Lindsay, yet she was scared of becoming addicted. Doctor shopping was the practitioners were leaving, resulting in a new practitioner. And the in-house treatment places were turning her away or useless. McLean was likely just a holding place, not treatment, due to it being a holiday weekend. Reasons for Googling CVS and the restaurant ended up being that she was Googling those things all along. The prosecution appears to have a vendetta. The cruelty is fully on display. Why not settle this? No, I am not forgetting the children. The children should still be here. They should be able to grow up. However, I also believe this woman needs intensive mental health care. Two things can be true at once. There is nothing that can be done for the children. We are left with the broken woman who was tortured by the prosecution yesterday. That's not justice. And I think with that, there's not a whole lot more that I can say to top that one off. And they were actually talking about it would be Wednesday's testimony with the Lindsay was just sobbing when they were going over the autopsy results. It's the one that I missed, and I'm glad that I didn't listen to it. But oh no, I think it says it all there. So again, don't forget Friday. There is no testimony, and they will resume on Monday. So we will actually go back to our regular podcast and try to get caught up there and things like that. So we will see you then. Thanks so much for joining me, and we will talk later. Have a great night. Bye.